Two things before we get started. One, yes, I know I need to trim my beard. I call this my struggling writer look, so I'm keeping it for now. Thing two, there are two channels that I forgot to mention last week that I wanted to add to our best YouTube filmmakers list. And the first one is D for Darius. A lot of you commented on in the notes, and his passion is just incredibly infectious. He's very much one-man band with a lot of great insights and, again, taking us on the journey of him figuring this whole thing out, just like the rest of us. So definitely check that one out. The second one is Make Art Now, who is another extremely passionate filmmaker with a lot of great ideas and really solid production value. So definitely check those two out as well. But now this. So of course today we're taking a look at how you can replicate this sort of Game of Thrones type look, which, ready? We take this shot here and then we put the lens cap on. Perfect, done. Which of course I'm kidding. I'm only even making this horribly obvious joke because I know everyone will be posting it in the comments anyway, but I'm definitely not one of the haters of that episode. I absolutely loved it. For me, The Long Night was one of the best episodes of television I have ever seen and raised the bar of television to a whole new level. I mean, come on, look at this. And this, and this. It was absolutely beautiful. The only bummer really for me was some of the compression over streaming didn't do the filmmakers any favors, but I mean, look at this. It's just gorgeous. But like you see in our shot here, we aren't really going for a specific look from Game of Thrones. Instead, we're kind of taking a stab at creating a sort of castle sword and shield style. One of the main problems to solve with something like this, of course, is going to be the background. Setting is everything, and if it looks modern in any way, it's just not gonna work. There's a few ways we could solve this, of course. The best solve is to find a great location, but we couldn't find one around here that would be within the price range we'd be happy with. Then we thought of green screen, but with the hair and wanting it to be so darkly lit, I just didn't want to deal with keying, and I didn't feel like it would turn out the best in the end anyway. So we built out the set you see behind Josh, which actually looks like this. It's just 3 flat pieces of photo backdrop arranged to give us that sense of a corridor in depth. And these are super cheap, plasticky backdrops for photography. Each of these only costs about 17 bucks on Amazon, and they look great on camera, especially if you throw them out of focus. The best thing about this sort of idea is they have tons of background options for this, like brick, stone, wood, and so on. There's even environment options, though I'm not really sure those would work all that well unless you really put them in the background and left them entirely out of focus. But to get this depth here, we made an L with 2 of them by pinning one up and throwing another on a C-stand. Then we placed another close to the camera on a C-stand and set our camera's position so that the foreground is blocking the left edge of the background and the right of the frame is hugging the right edge of the background. Originally, my plan was just to use one right up against a wall, but then I got this idea to create some depth in the last minute. So 2 things I didn't think about was, first, with the backdrop not up against a wall, they would move with the slightest bit of air. And the second was that when the torch was behind the backdrop, we could see the light straight through it, obviously killing the illusion. So to stop it from moving, we put this large box up against it to help stabilize it, which is just an empty box that was in our warehouse lying around. No idea why we haven't thrown that out yet. And then we taped some fabric to the back to keep the light from spilling through, and there you go. But still, it isn't selling completely, and a large portion of that is due to this edge. We have stones here, but then this perfectly cut straight edge, which looks just terrible. But an easy fix for that would be to cut the edge to match the pattern of the stones, which we didn't do because we're lazy. Mostly because we were short on time, but also because we're lazy. And now we can haze up the room using haze in a can, which is a super cheap alternative to a hazer. You just spray it through the room, waft it around, and there you go. And haze like this is great to create atmosphere and tie things together. It really makes the shot feel full and more weighted overall. Of course, you have other things that will help you sell your shot, like the actor's costume and props. But to get something really legit that would hold up under scrutiny, you had to spend a lot more money than we wanted to. So we just grabbed this Party City level Jon Snow costume and lit the scene darker, and that mixed with the haze can really help you sell something that actually looks pretty ridiculous when you look at it in the bright light. But even this super cheap wig that we only even used because we thought it was funny is actually almost selling in this shot because of the darkness and the haze. So the main takeaway here is, as always, you don't need a massive budget to try big ideas. You can always shrink things down, pull it back a bit, and still operate in a universe that you want to try. It's all about making your limitations work for you, adjusting enough to make $1 $1 look like $100. And of course, we are really pushing it with this technique, trying to see how far we can take it. So a lot of the shot of Josh walking doesn't fully work. But if you know that and you plan around this, especially just using it as a background like this shot, you can really make this idea work well. And it's trying stupid ideas like this, these popsicle stick super glue filmmaking ideas, that really sharpens the problem-solving knife. I really think there is a lot of value in thinking this way, how I can make something out of almost nothing. When you get used to making it work with a $17 backdrop from Amazon, once you get on set with actual resources, it's a whole lot easier. Next, we're gonna take a look at the lighting and the post-process for this, but before we do, let's talk about domain. Domain.com has your website needs, including .com and .net domain names. And for us filmmakers, a site for your company, for your film, or your personal demo site is really important. I have a few of those. We have filmriot.com. We've had a few sites for our films, and I have my personal site, ryanconleyfilm.com. And of course, I got all of those domains from domain.com. They've been a really big supporter of Filmriot over the years, and they're affordable, reliable, and have those tools that you need to build your site and share your work with the world. And of course, a .com or .net is one of the best ways to go. But if you want to go deeper with your branding, domain.com is over 300 domain name extensions to fit your needs from .club to .space. So jump over to domain.com, use the coupon code FilmRiot, get 15% off your domain names, web hosting, and email. Just grab the goods and get your work online. Logos. We have our fake walls up and ready to go, so next up is to light it, and I asked my friend and badass DP, Daniel Ruth, to come out and help, and you should all know Daniel as the DP of Sentinel and Westworld to Yuma. And we wanted to keep it really simple, so Daniel threw up a light high with a nice blue color, giving it sort of a moonlight type look to the back walls here, and it's adding some color contrast to our fire as well. And that was the main thing. We wanted our torch to be the main light in the scene, so everything Daniel did was to complement that, which, don't do this. I have to say this. Don't use a torch indoors. Don't play with fire. Don't burn things down. Don't be dumb. Play with fire at your own risk. Is that good? We're safe now, legally?
Probably not.
So we have that top blue moonlight, then another small light on the side to add a little extra blue moon for when Josh comes around to this area here. Then we had another light in the back to add a reddish fire light to the back wall, something very subtle, keeping everything nice and dark. But this is really doing its work when Josh is in the foreground, so we don't completely lose that warm light off the background when he comes closer to camera. And finally, we just have a clamp light clipped onto our punching bag. Not even a stand, the punching bag, because why not? We had that one on a dimmer so someone could manually add a fire flicker to that foreground wall, and that's it. We also shot this on my new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, which is the best camera under $5,000 that I've ever used. This thing is so killer, but I'll gush over that soon in the review we have coming. In post, I just tossed on one of the LUTs from our new fantasy LUT pack, and yes, we have a brand new LUT pack. As previously stated, we're huge fans of Game of Thrones, so we wanted to make a LUT pack to feed that need in our Game of Thrones loving souls. Benjamin made a great pack here as usual. We have 4 LUTs in here inspired by the looks of Game of Thrones, each from different areas of the show. Then we have other LUTs like 300, Beauty and the Beast, Harry Potter, Highlander, Labyrinth, Pan's Labyrinth, Pirates of the Caribbean, Sleepy Hollow, and more. There's 45 fantasy LUTs in total, and just like our other LUT packs, we have versions for different cameras like Arri, Panasonic, Red, Blackmagic, Canon, and Sony. We also have generic versions that'll be a great middle ground to get started, and a ton of utility LUTs. So if you're interested, definitely check out the link in the notes below for that. But once we have our look on, we have our DIY sword and shield style look, and the majority of this look is being accomplished all in camera, which is why we're not spending a ton of time on the post here. It's all about lighting it dimly and this idea of the backgrounds. And again, the best way to use these backgrounds is with them a little bit out of focus and against a wall. You do that and these sell incredibly well. And it's just one more great trick to add to your toolbox of ideas. But as always, links to everything we talked about in the notes below, including links to follow the badass DP Daniel Ruth. We have links for you to check out for more of his work and his social links. But until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.